Hi, I'm Carly Fairbrother. I'm the host of The Last Grown Up in the Woods, and today is the last Sunday of September, which means that it's World Rivers Day. In the last few weeks, I've been exploring some of my favorite rivers in the area. First, I'm going to talk about what is perhaps the most important river to me. I grew up close to it, and it is this one. I've mentioned it before in videos. It's the mighty Fraser River. The Fraser River is almost 1,400 kilometers long. This section between here and Mission, probably about 100 kilometers, it's called the Heart of the Fraser, and it's one of the most productive stretches of river in the world. There are about 30 species of fish that rely on this stretch of river, many of which are threatened and many of which have lost most of their habitat in other rivers due to damming and pollution. We're close to the place where the Fraser River leaves the Fraser Canyon, and as it does that, it slows down and drops all of its sediment. The sediment I talk about can be larger stuff, like the stuff we see around here, but as we go further downstream, it gets smaller and smaller. That sediment is excellent spawning material for a number of species. Up to 10 million pink salmon will spawn in this stretch of river. It's also critical spawning habitat for the white sturgeon, which is the monster of the river. They can grow up to 6 meters in length and live up to 150 years. And yes, that is me kissing a sturgeon. There are salmon spawning right now. All 5 species of Pacific salmon actually either migrate or spawn in the Fraser River. They aren't all doing it right now though, so I'm going to wait until I collect enough footage so I can talk about all of them. If I've completed that video, there will be a message next to that fish swimming around in the corner. You should click it and watch that video. But as I said, as the river slows down in this area, it drops all of its sediment. And as it slows down more downstream, it drops the smaller sediment that makes really fertile land and makes a nice big flat delta. So the obvious use for this would be farming, which is great because I love food. However, agricultural practices, although they are improving, leaves pesticide and fertilizer runoff, as well as runoff from animals, which increases the fecal coliform levels in the river. And even more detrimentally, deltas also make excellent places to build cities. Many of the world's biggest cities are built on deltas. So downstream of here we have Vancouver. As you can imagine, that has all sorts of implications for the river. It removes trees and vegetation, which would otherwise help to regulate water levels and maybe soak up some runoff. In Vancouver, there's a lot of water falling from the sky, and when it hits hard surfaces like roads or parking lots, then it goes into the storm drains and directly into the water. Most people don't realize that it goes directly into the water, but it does. So there's all sorts of road runoff, detergents, industrial waste. Another thing that has a huge impact on the lower Fraser is gravel extraction. Unfortunately, us humans find that fine spawning gravel just as appealing as the pink salmon and the sturgeon do. So we go and take it out. So as I walk through the rivers today, I'm going to be talking about some of the specific things that threaten these rivers, which are not unique to these rivers. All of these things that I talk about threaten rivers all over the world. Of course, the things I talk about today will not include all of the things that threaten rivers. I'm also going to hopefully encourage you to get out and explore the rivers, enjoy them, and I'm also going to make some suggestions as to how you can help the rivers. On that note, I'm going to head over to the Thompson River. Behind me you can see the beautiful Thompson River. We're about 5 kilometers north of the confluence with the Fraser River. I actually worked here about 10 years ago, and I'm here for a staff reunion, conveniently timed about a week before Rivers Day. I'm going to be leaving shortly to do a run down the Devil's Gorge. I haven't done it for about 10 years, so I'm pretty stoked. So as this trip goes underway, I'm just going to hang back and narrate, talk about rivers. All we need is some epic music. Perfect. And as we hit up the first rapid, the Frog here, I should add that the Thompson River is actually the birthplace of World Rivers Day. Whoa. So Rivers Day was started in 1980 when Angelo organized a river cleanup of the Thompson River with a bunch of reporters and politicians, and teamed up with Fandrich, who was the owner of Kumsheen Rafting. And that became BC Rivers Day, which became World Rivers Day. I met Angelo about 10 years ago when I was going to British Columbia Institute of Technology, taking fish and wildlife. He was head of the program then. He has spearheaded so many important conservation projects and just been involved in so many interesting and important things that I have nothing but the highest regard for him. I also know Bernie. He was my boss. He started Kumsheen in 1973 when not a lot of people knew what whitewater rafting was, and he made a huge success out of it. So I guess the first thing I'm going to talk about why rivers are important is maybe a little obvious because I'm rafting a river, and that's recreation. There is obviously whitewater rafting, and in this case, whitewater rafting has really helped to spur the economy in this area. There's a lot of small towns that don't have a lot of economy, and I believe there are 4 rafting companies that are operating on the Fraser and Thompson River in this area. And hold on, the cutting board is coming up, so I'm going to pause my information because this part's amusing. See where that green boat is? That's where we're trying to go, and nope, we didn't make it. Better luck next time, guys. And this might be the time where I mentioned that I didn't actually work as a guide here. I was in the kitchen, and I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm just listening to the guys behind me. Of course, river recreation isn't limited to whitewater paddling. There's just regular old flatwater paddling. You can do a hour-long leisurely paddle, or you can do a multi-day paddle, or you can just jump in the river on a hot day, or sit by the banks and enjoy its peaceful beauty, or skip stones with the kids, or whatever. The more you get outside to enjoy these rivers, the more you will love them and want to protect them, so it's a win-win. Another thing that I want to talk about is the effect on the landscape. I'm paddling through a canyon. It's not that canyony right here, but it's still obvious that this river has carved out a big area, and oh, it's the jaws of death. The jaws of death. Okay. Also, the fact that rivers are a huge part of the water cycle. They bring water from in the mountains, they take it to the ocean, they pass through places that might not have a lot of water, like deserts, nutrients and sediment from up there and down to here, and in this carving out landscapes and moving around nutrients, we also, of course, have the fish that I mentioned earlier. Huge food source for a lot of people all over the world. And one more thing about rivers is that although we are now paddling for recreation, of course, rivers have been used as highways for millennia, either through paddling or trails that are built through the natural paths that rivers have carved. The Caribou Wagon Trail, built in 1860, passed through this canyon and was a big step in connecting the west coast to the rest of Canada, also for bringing all the gold rush folks up the canyon and into the Caribou. In 1885, the Canadian Pacific Railway was completed through this canyon, and that officially connected east coast of Canada to the west coast of Canada and was a major point in Canadian history. The Trans-Canada Highway also goes through here. It was actually the railways that were the reason for the Thompson River cleanup in the first place. There are now 2 railways along this canyon, CN Rail and CPR. They both go along different sides of the canyon, and in the past have left a lot of debris behind. They are better now, but Kumsheen still organizes a river cleanup every year, and the guides still pick up stuff regularly on their everyday trips. Oh, hey guys, I don't know why I'm here. How did I get in this river? It's like waking up from a weird dream. Yeah, okay. Graceful entrance back into the boat. Wonderful. And that's just about it here. We just paddle our boats onto Lytton. It was a cold day, but amazing, and it really reminded me just how powerful rivers are. Now we're moving on to Kanaka Creek. This is one of my favorite places. I spent many hours as a child playing in Kanaka Creek. This is the Upper Falls. Definitely one of my favorite places. It just looks tropical. Look at those waterfalls. Beautiful. You can go under them, and that's what I'm about to do. Splashy, splashy. Usually these are a lot more powerful. The creek has been so low. This was in July, and it was just incredible how low it is. I'm going to talk about the implications for salmon and the ecosystem a little bit later, but this is a salmon-bearing creek, and that means that any gravel is very sensitive to you walking in it or biking or taking your horses or your livestock, especially between fall and spring. Oh, Devil's Club! What a beautiful plant! I hope you've never had a run-in with this plant. It's beautiful but very painful to touch. This area is all sandstone. It's allowed the water to carve out these cool geological formations. Oh, why, you ask, am I walking up a creek when it's River's Day? Besides size, there's not a whole lot of difference, and the whole size thing is subjective. And the Kanaka Creek flows into the Fraser River. Like all creeks will flow into a river, so what happens in the creeks happens in the rivers. That's why I'm showing you Kanaka Creek. Oh, a froggy! This one's a little red-legged frog. He's so cute. Look at that. These are actually threatened in BC. And I'm going to slow it down for you to really look at that red leg. Oh, my pet peeve. It's always beer drinkers and bottled water drinkers and Tim Hortons drinkers. They're the worst culprits. So you can really see how low it is. Oh, little itty bitty fry. Hi, little fishes. You might be able to imagine what it would look like with these banks full. And that's been terrible for the salmon. Coho salmon spend a whole year in the creek growing up, and any little fish or eggs really can't tolerate the warm weathers. A lot of these little streams in Metro Vancouver depend on fish hatcheries to keep their salmon stocked, and a lot of the hatcheries have been having huge problems this year. They use the water from the streams in the hatcheries, and that water has just gotten too warm, so some of them have just let the fish go, others have just seen a lot of die-off. That's a random crayfish. I don't know where the rest of the footage of that went. Oh, so those are some sort of salmonid. They might be the little cohos, maybe rainbows. Oh no, I haven't done talking and we're almost at the end. Oh, slow motion. There you go. Some other things that are affecting rivers are damming, overfishing, sewage, dredging, sedimentation, invasive species, oil or chemical spills, and mining. Some ways you can help. I already talked about getting out there and exploring the rivers near you. Educate yourself, donate to any local river advocacy groups or conservation groups, volunteer with them, go to their events, be careful of what you send down the drain, and for goodness sake, don't litter. Oh, come on, people. Garbage can is right over there.